When America turned 200 years old, I was 10. Back then, nobody called it America 200. Nobody called it a brand. Nobody called it a campaign. We just called it the Bicentennial. I remember learning every American flag that had ever flown over this country. Not because our teachers forced us, but because it mattered. At least it felt like it mattered. I remember my school putting together a cookbook. Every student was encouraged to contribute something. My contribution was a recipe called Good Neighbor Cake, a simple recipe. Nothing fancy, but 50 years later, I still have it. I remember standing on a stage with classmates, presenting our bicentennial program. Then we went to another school. Then we presented it again on the 4th of July at the Rec Center on the Air Force Base, to a 10-year-old kid. That felt important, because it was. I remember the bicentennial emblem. It was everywhere. Television, stores, advertisements, parades, school projects. You couldn't miss it. We even had a red, white, and blue Michigan license plate celebrating the bicentennial. America's 200th birthday wasn't something happening somewhere else. It felt like it belonged to everybody. I grew up on K.I. Sawyer Air Force Base. Every weekday at 5 o'clock, the national anthem played across the base, and every night at 10, taps echoed through the darkness. You always knew what time it was, and you always knew where you lived. Before every movie started, people stood, not because someone told them to, because the national anthem was playing. Sure, I remember the fireworks, the celebrations, the flags, the excitement, but that's not what stays with me. What stays with me is participation. People weren't spectators, they were part of it. Schools, families, neighborhoods, churches, veterans, kids, everybody. Now America is approaching her 250th birthday, and sometimes I wonder, have we forgotten something? Not how to celebrate, not how to argue. Lord knows we're still good at that. Have we forgotten how to participate? Because freedom was never meant to be something we watch. Freedom is something we build, something we protect, something we pass along, one generation to the next. That's why I'm still here. That's why we're building. That's why we're teaching. That's why we're telling stories. That's why we're remembering. A promise was made in 1776. A generation celebrated it in 1976. Now it's our turn. The question isn't whether America will reach 250. She will. The question is, what will we hand to the people who celebrate 300? I'm Everett Boone, and I still believe freedom is worth showing up for. We're the Ameriquins. We come from different places. We carry different stories. We don't always agree. But after 250 years, I've learned something. There is no such thing as an average American. In fact, no average American has ever existed. And that's been our strength all along. We do this because freedom still rings. There's no such thing as an average American. Thank goodness. And can you imagine? Congratulations, Everett. After extensive testing, we've determined you're completely average. Nope, don't like that one bit. There's no such thing as an average American. If you find one, let me know. I'd kind of like to see what one looks like. 50 years ago, I submitted a recipe called Good Neighbor Cake. Turns out the cake was never the important part. The neighbor was. So here's an idea. Make two. One for your family, one for the folks next door. If America needs anything right now, it's probably more good neighbors. Pinky promise. And here's the recipe. I thought you might appreciate it being on screen so you can copy it.